Hello? Can you hear me?
Hi, Manny. How you doing? This is Sean.
Sean, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Just rainy over here in California. How's you in Austin?
I am.
Nice. So we got rain over there?
You know, I figured out over the last 10 years that people don't call me to ask about the weather in Austin, Texas, because I usually tell them to go outside and look at a weather rock. People usually call me to ask questions about federal contracts.
Oh, I agree, but I was just there about 2 weeks ago in Dallas and it was a mess.
Oh,
So
were you? It was a mess, huh?
yeah.
So I like to set a couple of ground rules to these meetings. One is that this is just a conversation between two guys in the construction industry. There is no PowerPoint. There is no sales pitch at the end. There is no if you buy now. It's just a conversation. And it's really to develop for you two things, because contractors have the best bullshit meters on the planet. And someone's always trying to blow smoke up their ass. And so this is for you to determine, one, if I'm full of shit or not. And two, if I'm not, am I the kind of guy you want to work with going into the federal market?
Fair enough.
And then the next question I like to ask is, most people scroll past Facebook ads like crazy, but something must have caught your eye. What was that?
It was when I saw the government contract. I was looking into a company years ago that was doing it out here in California and San Diego. I don't remember the name. It was probably 10 years ago. And I didn't join up with them for whatever reason. Something just didn't seem right. And so I've always had an interest in it because I've got a lot of the favorable conditions for it to maximize the bids. And so I just saw it and I knew I needed to get involved. I had been looking for a source for a while. I did see a source on Fiverr.com not too long ago. And I guess there's some guy on Fiverr that'll help you do it too. I just never followed through with it.
I have no idea. I think I went on Fiverr one time to buy a JPEG of something for $5 or something years ago. Wouldn't have never even occurred to me that somebody would be on Fiverr trying to sell shit associated with the federal government. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think I was particularly. I think it was more of a stumble. You know what I mean? Was surprised that was there, and I remember when I found it. But that's what gave me that doubt too. I'm like, why is this guy here?
Yeah. Interesting. Well, anyway, then the other question I like to ask is, did you see the whole ad? Did you watch it all from beginning to the end, or just part of it?
Negative. It wasn't letting me. Every time I tried to click on any videos, it was trying to do a capture code. It was saying that my IP address was suspicious. Even on the testimonials, I couldn't get any videos. That's why I called. I said, well, let me call them and see what they're offering.
A suspicious IP on testimonial videos? Those are just straight up YouTube videos.
Yeah, I found it awkward myself. You know, it was. I should have took a screenshot of it. I could probably pull it up and take a screenshot and send it to you.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind doing that, because my tech guy reviews all these calls, so I'm just going to say in here, hey Matt, you need to get with Manny here and figure out what the hell, dude, because they're just YouTube videos. I mean, like.
Well, I thought it was a prank because every time you put in the capture code, it wouldn't accept it, and then I kept putting them in like 5 times, and I was like, oh no, this is a joke.
Okay, just for shits and giggles, since I've got you on the line, let me just go. You can see on my screen here, I'm just going straight to my YouTube channel. And
I pulled it off of your page, though. I pulled it off of your page, direct off of the landing page for GCE.
GCExperts.com.
Correct. I didn't go to, it didn't.
And then you just
YouTube.
went and hit play on this video and it wouldn't play?
Yeah.
Sorry, I could, man, dude, I'm telling you, those are just straight up YouTube videos.
Then I went down to the other videos a little bit further down, and and it kept asking for a capture code, and I was like, what the hell?
Bro, I just hit play on all of them at the same time. That is so strange, man.
I honestly don't know. I've never experienced it. It seemed awkward. I'm like, wow, this defeats the purpose.
Yeah, sure does. And I'm sorry about that. And I don't know because, I mean, to me, they're just straight up YouTube videos. But I'll send you some playlists and or I'll send you my YouTube channel and you can just go to all the sources directly. So we can certainly do that. But on the other hand, you know, you got in front of you a guy that set 1,000 federal contracts that generated $1 billion in revenue. So let's just talk. So what have you been doing?
I've been doing construction for about 18 to 20 years and just different types of businesses and some real estate investing and just a wide assortment of things.
Okay. And when you say doing construction, like you have a team of guys that goes out and does it themselves, like you run a renovation company or something?
Yeah. Mostly outdoor patios and pool remodels. But I am a general contractor, so at one point we were doing like window replacement and roofing and other stuff, but I try to streamline it into one niche. Okay.
And then, now I know you didn't see any of the other testimonial videos, but can I just assume at this point that you haven't seen any of my videos? And since you didn't see the ad all the way through, you want me to tell you the whole story, how you and I ended up in this phone call?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it actually starts it starts in 1976. What happened was my dad was an air conditioning mechanic in Killeen, Texas. He had just gotten out of the Army. He was drafted into Vietnam. And he was finishing his tour at Fort Hood up in Killeen. And when he left the Army, he bought some, what do they call them, mobile homes, and figured out that Texans pretty quickly burned through air conditioning units in 1976. So he bought a truckload of air conditioning units with the idea that he was going to go sell air conditioning units and install them. Somebody stole the truck. $20,000 in 1976 money is like $200,000 today, and he was 26 years old. He went to his banker friend, a guy named Bernie Beck, who is beloved by people in Central Texas. So beloved this guy was, he died about 15 years ago, but he was so beloved that Fort Hood, the biggest Army base, it might be the biggest Army base in the world, their main gate is called the Bernie Beck Gate. That's how beloved this guy was. And my dad went to Bernie Beck in 1976 and said, I need to borrow $20,000. And he's 26 years old. And Bernie looked at him and said, kid, why should I give you $20,000? And my dad looked up at him and he said, Bernie, because from now on I'm only going to do federal contracts because if they run out of money, they print more.
True.
Bernie laughed at that and gave my dad $20,000, and that launched my dad into the federal market. Between 1980 and 1989, my dad and his brother grew a government construction company from $500,000 the first year to $95 million a year their 9th year. They doubled in size and revenue every year for 10 years. I came into the business in the 90s, but there was something that happened in the 80s. In 1986, I was 15 years old and I backtalked my mom. She called my dad on a cell phone. He said, put him on an airplane to Palm Springs, California. Within an hour of backtalking my mom, I was on an airplane. 2 hours later, I was in Palm Springs, California, being picked up by a superintendent who took me over to a job site at 29 Palms, California, which is where the Marine Corps base is. And within 5 hours of backtalking my mom, I was in an attic insulating ductwork at the age of 15, and I was there for 3 months the entire summer. So my dad could quickly change my world. That was my introduction into federal government construction. I was 15. I went back to high school, finished high school, went to college, and got a job in the federal government construction market around 1992 on an island off the coast of California called San Clemente Island. We were overhauling 5 generators. Well, no, it was, I want to say 3 or 4 generators. They had 4 generators on the island, but 5, but 4 were in operation. The 5th one was always being rehabilitated to move in when they took the next one offline, so that they always had 4 operating and 1 being rehabilitated. And we funneled through those generators. It was about an $8 million job to rehab all those generators, that they'd create all the power on the island of San Clemente. It was a Navy job. My next job was a superintendent on a job in San Francisco, where I replaced a heating unit at the Presidio, and that was right before it transferred over to the National Park Service. I spent the next 5 years of my life traveling across the United States doing federal contracts as a superintendent. Eventually got myself a seat at the table as a project manager, and at that stage of my career, my dad and I were sitting down at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and bidding jobs all over the country, doing about $20 to $40 million worth of work a year, and with a team of 6 people. In 2005, my brother was in a boating accident and had a golf ball-sized portion of his brain removed, and my dad and I left the construction industry to focus on his recovery. When you do $1 billion worth of work, 1,000 federal contracts, you have a lot of money. We certainly had a lot of money then. I have a lot of money today. But in 2005, my brother was in an accident. We started investing $200,000 a month into his recovery, and we did that for 5 years. We brought in experts from all over the world, Russia, China, all over the United States. We brought experts in from Australia. And the whole idea from my dad's perspective is that I want my son back the way he was the day before the accident. We accomplished that around 2009, but something interesting also happened in 2009. It was the last big recession. A woman wrote an article in the local Austin American-Statesman paper called, but the article was about how the construction industry had gone to shit because of this recession. My dad wrote the author and said, I take exception to your article. Maybe the commercial and residential construction industry has gone to shit, but President Obama just issued $150 billion into the federal market to boost the economy, and there's not enough contractors to do that much work. $47 billion didn't get spent, and she wrote back and said, would you write an article about that? And he did. He wrote an article called Show Me the Money. It was a popular tagline from a movie back then. That article was about the opportunity in the federal market. That article was picked up by a magazine called Commercial Construction Renovation Magazine. I still have a copy of it today, 12 years later. In that magazine, it got published nationally, and a guy named Jacob Kroll up in Dallas, Texas, read that article, and he contacted us. Now, keep in mind, we weren't the government construction experts. We were just 2 guys that were really finished with the construction market, focusing on my brother, his son's recovery, and it just accidentally, hey, would you write an article? Sure, I'll write an article. The article gets published, we get called by a guy. We didn't call him, he called us. His name was Jacob Kroll. He said, hey, I've got a group of 110 roofing and restoration contractors in Dallas, Texas. Would you come speak for an hour about the opportunity in federal contracts? I think they could learn a lot about it. So we did. We drove up to Dallas. We gave a speech for an hour in front of a group of roofing restoration contractors. That changed everything because my dad did something I didn't expect him to do. At the end of that speech, he said, I'll take 20 contractors into a room, teach them everything they need to know about federal government contracts and how to succeed in the federal market in a 3-day workshop. Now keep in mind that 3-day workshop didn't exist. He said it'll be 2 people per purchase price, $10,000 per company, times 10. We got bum rushed on the stage because there was 110 people in the room and we had just said we're only taking 20. 10 companies, 2 people apiece. We took credit card orders for a workshop that didn't exist to the tune of $100,000 in 15 minutes. I was so impressed I didn't know what to make of it. I started taking film of it with my old iPhone 3. On the way home, I'm going, geez, Dad, that was kind of neat. What the hell did you do that for? He goes, well, we're smart guys. We'll create a workshop and we'll teach these guys how to be successful in the market and we'll just see what happens. So we go back home, we create What would a 3-day workshop look like? We go up to Dallas, we start teaching these guys, and lo and behold, they go out and start getting federal contracts. You want to know how I know for sure they started getting federal contracts?
How?
Because I created a proof page. If you're one of my clients, do I know the name of your company?
You should.
So I told you we were doing these live events and we were training people. And so this is Dennis of AMG. At the end of the workshop, we took video and interviewed. Hey, how'd you like the workshop? So imagine if you hit play here, he's saying, oh my God, the workshop's amazing. But I know his company is AMG. His shirt says AMG. This video, he says, Doug and Sean of GCExperts are the best. You click this link, you go to a public watchdog site. This isn't my website. This is usaspending.gov. You look up AMG Construction, and they say he's gotten $4.2 million in contracts. When you play the video, he says it's 2014. When you go down here and you start seeing where he got federal contracts, it's 2014. In other words, the math adds up. You go down here, here's Andy of NBT. You hit play, he says, oh my God, you guys are amazing. I show he's got $7 million in contracts. You click his button, and oh my God, he's got $7.6 million in contracts. What does that mean? That means since I took the picture, he's gotten $600,000 more in federal contracts. You look at the date of the video, it's 2016. You look at the date he started getting federal contracts, it's 2017. Okay? In other words, every one of these videos, every one of these guys, hey, the workshop's awesome, and here's the proof. It's not me asking them how much contracts they got. In this video, Kevin says, hey, I started a year ago. When you click on his link, he's gotten $1.6 million in contracts. When did he start? 2022, a year ago. It's my indisputable proof page. You can't argue with me that these guys aren't getting these federal contracts and that they learned how to do it from me. There's over $300 million worth of awards on that page alone. So now let's talk about you. Ready?
Yeah.
You're a contractor and you're out there in the real world and you're doing work for people. And I don't expect you to be an economist, and I'm not an economist. But I've noticed some shit over the last few years, and I want to talk to you about it. The economy goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And when you're over here writing the economy up, you don't know exactly what's happening, but you can tell things are happening because you start getting phone calls. Hey, Manny,
Correct.
give me a bid for this. Hey, Manny, give me a bid for this. Hey, Manny, bid. And you're like, holy shit, my marketing's working. Something's going on. Wow. And then you start getting more phone calls. And when you start getting too many phone calls, what do you do with your price?
They go up.
Hell yeah, they do, because things are good, baby. Then all of a sudden, what happens is the economy pulls back. You start getting less phone calls, and you start doubting yourself because you're like, shit, man, last week I was an expert. I was Superman. Things were good. The wife was happy, etc., etc., etc. And then all of a sudden it's gone, and I'm here to tell you that's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Everything you did was right. The economy pulled back, and you can't control that. But if you stay in business long enough, you ride this thing over, and all of a sudden things start picking up, and you end up in this vicious cycle riding the economy, and there's not much shit you can do about that. But what do we call these downturns? There's a word for it.
Dips in the economy?
That's right. We call them recessions, right?
Correct.
Okay. What was the worst recession in American history? Do you know?
Wasn't it 1921, the Depression, but then the 2008?
The Great Depression, 1929 actually, but that's okay. Most people mess that up, but they normally get it right into the 20s. Okay? What happened was the stock market crashed and it devastated the country. 9 out of 10 people were out of work. You can Google it. It's called the Great Depression. And 9 out of 10 people were out of work. The incoming president that was saddled with the problem His name was FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And this shit's really important because it predicts the future. FDR became president. He was tasked with solving the Great Depression. 9 out of 10, the economy was devastated. Okay? So what he did was something very unique. He came up with something called the New Deal. You heard of it from history class?
I do remember the New Deal.
Okay. Let me tell you a little bit about it. You can Google it if you don't believe me, but here's what happened with the New Deal. FDR said, I'm going to issue a bunch of federal contracts. I'm going to put out contracts to build roads, bridges, and dams all across the United States. I'm going to put people back to work. And he did that. He put a bunch of federal contracts out. But he did something different that had never been done in history. Prior to the New Deal, when our government bought construction goods and services, they put it in the books as a cost. Hey, we buy shit and that costs money. It's a cost. But the New Deal that FDR negotiated with Congress, he changed that. He said, hey, when we invest in America, roads, bridges, and dams, that's an asset that we're getting. We're increasing the value of our country. It wasn't just a cost. I now own a bridge. I now own a road. The country's worth more. He balanced the books, and that changed everything. It had never been done before. The New Deal brought that into existence. Flash forward to 2008. We end up in another recession. 2009, who's the incoming president?
Obama.
That's right, Obama. He's saddled with a great recession, a big problem, so he decides he's going to do what FDR did. You know what he issued? The American Reinvestment and Recovery Act. $150 billion worth of federal government contracts. He puts them out the street to stimulate the economy, build the value of our country, and guess what happened? There was only 25,000 registered federal contractors. Do you remember that from the video?
Yeah. No, I didn't see the video.
From the advertisement. That's the first thing I said. That you're one of the million contractors and there's 25,000 registered federal contractors?
I didn't see any of the videos, to be honest, except maybe I don't recall. Hold on one second. Hey. Yeah, I hadn't seen any of the videos. The night that I was originally watching it, I think okay. I don't remember what happened.
Well, the problem was there was only 25,000 registered federal contractors. Okay? 25,000 registered federal contractors cannot do $150 billion worth of work. That's impossible.
Uh-huh.
Okay? And so what happened was $47 billion of the ARRA money went unspent. It came back into the public funds when it was meant to stimulate the economy. Remember I said that we came into this in 2010 and we went up there with Jacob Kroll and started teaching contractors? That whole idea in my dad's mind was to solve this problem. We're going to create more federal contractors so that the next time this happens, there will be enough federal contractors to eat the meat on the bone. That was the problem here. Too much meat on the bone for the contractors. Okay? So, flash forward, 13 years later, who's president now?
Biden.
That's right. What act did he just put into place? The Infrastructure Act. He's trying to do the same thing that Obama did, same thing that FDR did. He's trying to stimulate the economy by building infrastructure across the United States and increase the value of our country. He did it to the tune of $3 trillion. Okay? And what I'm here to tell you is that there are contractors out there that are smarter than you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what those contractors are doing is they're riding this wave up, but when the economy starts pulling back, they switch off into federal contracts. And then when they hit over here and they ride this up and the economy starts to go over, they just switch over into federal contracts. That's what the smart guys are doing. And that's what that advertisement was supposed to get your attention to, is that the solution to a down economy is federal construction, but not because it's the latest, greatest thing or a get-rich-quick scheme. It's because our federal government has been doing it since 1929 to stimulate the economy, and there's not enough of us. Mm-hmm. When competition is lower, what happens to prices?
Goes up.
That's right. But in your market, there's a lot of steep competition. And what happens when there's a million contractors going after some piece of the pie?
Go down.
That's right. That's why margins for you are like, 5 to 15% or something. And margins over here are 30 to 80% plus. Now, most contractors in this country will work for between $20 and $250 an hour. In other words, if I call a plumber down the street and I say, hey, I want you to fix some shit in my backyard for 40 hours, I'll give you $250 an hour. Will he take me up on that?
Yeah.
But there's some contractors out here in this country that are making tens of thousands of dollars an hour. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
The problem is none of them are telling you how to do it, right?
No.
If you want me to, I will show you how they are doing that.
Okay.
Our government operates under a rule book when they buy construction goods and services. It's called the Federal Acquisition Regulations. That rule book applies to the National Park Service, the National Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the FBI, the CIA, the IRS, the Army, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Marines, the Environmental Protection Agency, United States Post Office, all 500 agencies that own all these million buildings across the United States. They all operate under one rule book, and it's called the Federal Acquisition Regulations. It's how our government acquires construction goods and services. We call it the FARs. F-A-R. Federal Acquisition Regulations. You and I are going to talk about one specific federal acquisition regulation out of thousands. We're going to talk about one. That FAR is 13.004A. And I want you to Google that so that you can see it for yourself. You having fun yet, Manny?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're not having fun, you can go do something else.
Well, that's why we're going this direction, because I kind of burnt out on construction personally, but I'm going to take it to another area of it,
All right. As long as you're having fun, buddy. I'm having fun. I just want you to know.
13. Actually, some of my guys had done work out at San Clemente Island.
Yeah, there's a bar there called the Salty Crab. They ever tell you about it?
No.
It's fun.
What did I put in? Yeah, FAR, legal effective quotations.
Stop right there. Stop. Okay, look, you're a smart guy, and I know that. I don't want you to jump ahead of me, because I want to take you through this step by step, and I don't want you to draw any conclusions. So the first thing I want you to recognize is, number one, that was acquisition.gov. In other words, it's a government website. It's not my website, right?
Okay, yeah.
Now go ahead and click on it so that you're in the government website.
Okay.
And then what I want you to do is read me the title of the FAR, which you already started to do. What's the title of that FAR?
Legal effective quotations?
That's right. Legal effect of a quote. Now look, if you go down the street and you give out 10 quotes, 100 quotes, or 1,000 quotes tomorrow, is there anything legal with the quotes that you just dropped off somewhere?
No, not until it's signed.
That's right. A quote is just a quote, and there's nothing legal about it in your world.
But I want you to recognize that the very first fucking thing we're talking about in this FAR, it says the legal effect of a quotation. And that's different than the real world, because in your world there is no legal effect of a quote, but in the government there is, and that's different, right?
Correct.
Correct. Now I want you to read the first sentence of the legal effect of a quotation out loud.
A quotation is not an offer and consequently cannot be accepted by the government to form a binding contract. Therefore, issuance to the government.
Stop. The first sentence. You skipped past the period.
I was on a roll.
Yeah, you were. The first sentence says a quote is not an offer and can't be turned into a contract. Now look, if you call me up and you say, hey Sean, give me a bid, and I sign that bid and I give it to you and you sign it, what do we now have?
Contract.
We have a contract, which literally means that I gave you a quote and you turned it into a contract.
Correct.
But on the federal government, when I give them a quote, what does the first sentence say?
Cannot be accepted by the government to form a binding contract.
And that's different, right? Because you can.
Say that again. I can?
I'm saying that's different because if I give you a quote, you can turn it into a contract.
Correct.
But on the government side, when I give them a quote, they can't turn it into a contract. It's the very first sentence.
Right.
And that's different, right?
Yeah.
Now read the second sentence. Well, I'm trying to establish that it's different.
Right.
Read the second sentence to me out loud. Stop at the period.
Therefore, issuance by the government of an order in response to a supplier's quotation does not establish a contract.
Okay, so stop right there. This is written by attorneys. This is written by Congress. This is the legal effect of a quotation. And our government knows that all people aren't perfect. And that they have government employees that might someday, when I come in and turn in a quote, they might turn it into a contract, even though they're not supposed to. Now, rule says a quote is not an offer and can't be turned into a contract. But someday, somebody might mess up and take a quote and turn it into a contract. It's just a mistake. So what the government is saying under the legal effect of a quotation is that if that ever happens to you, don't worry about it. It's not a contract. Now that I explained that to you, isn't that what the second sentence says?
Yes.
Okay. Now read the rest of the paragraph out loud.
The order is an offer by the government to the supplier to buy certain supplies or services upon specified terms and conditions. A contract is established when the supplier accepts the offer.
Okay, now again, this is written by attorneys, it's written by Congress, it's not, it's legalese, but let me explain to you what this means in the real world. Let's say the government needs a 200 square foot tiny house built. Just a little tiny house, 200 square feet, all right? And so they put it out for bid. And then here comes Sean, the national federal contractor, and I go, I'll bid that for $100,000. And I turn in a bid to the government. They can't turn it into a contract. We already talked about that. What they have to do is they have to offer it back to me. That's what that last sentence says. They have to offer it. They have to say, hey, we got your bid for $100,000. Would you please do this job for $100,000? I didn't write the rules. Congress wrote the rules. That's what they have to do, offer it back. When they offer it back, I have 4 options. 4. Number 1, I can accept. Number 2, I can withdraw. Number 3, I can negotiate. And number 4, I can stall for more time. Now listen, if you're the government and you need this 200 square foot tiny house built, and you put it out for bid, and somebody bids it, and you can't turn it into a contract, you have to offer it back. Of these 4 options, which one are you trying to get me to do?
1.
That's right, accept it. You want me to accept it so that now you've got a contract and you can go work on the other 10. You can get this one off your desk and go move on to the next one. But I don't do that. What I do is I stall. I say, I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting your call. Can I call you back in 24 to 48 hours? I just want to get them off the phone. Now what I'm doing is I'm calling you, Manny. I'm calling you and I'm saying, hey, my name's Sean. I'm a national federal contractor. I do everything from wind tunnels, water treatment plants to kitchen renovations. I'm calling you today because our government needs a 200 square foot tiny house built. And it's my understanding that you can coordinate that and put that together. What I'd like to do, Manny, is send you over the plans and specifications for this 200 square foot tiny house. And when you get the plans and specs, don't even look at them. Just pick up the phone and call me. I'm already familiar with the job. And I'm going to walk you through it step by step. So then we get on the phone and we talk about this. You're looking at the job. I'm looking at the job. And we're going to have a 5-minute conversation. And I'm going to say something to the effect of, hey, Manny, I'm not asking you to bid every 2x4. I'm not asking you to bid every electrical outlet. I'm not asking you to bid every shingle. What I'm asking you to do is just look at what we just looked at and tell me an off-the-cuff number that if I called you up 90 days from today and said, hey man, we got the job, that we'd be close enough to negotiate something that makes sense for both of us. Do you see how I'm removing the pressure off of you?
Right.
Now, under this hypothetical situation, you and I are just role-playing here. Give me a hypothetical number to build a 200 square foot tiny house.
115,000.
Well, holy shit, I turned my bid in for 100 grand. The guy that knows how to do it is telling me it's 115 grand. So I'm going to call the government back up and say, hey, suppose I need to change my bid to 150,000. What would happen next? In other words, I enter into negotiations with them. Give me another scenario. How much to build the 200 square foot tiny house?
98,000.
Holy shit. I bid it for 100. He's telling me 98,000. I call the government up and I negotiate to a higher number. Give me another scenario.
70,000.
I call the government up. I accept the job, and now I make $30,000 while Manny goes out and does the whole work. Give me
Correct.
another scenario.
100,000.
I negotiate the same thing that 98,000 was. Give me another scenario.
175.
Holy shit! I bid this job for 100,000. The guy that knows how to do it's telling me 175,000. I call the government. I withdraw my bid. I'm sorry, we're too busy to do work right now with you guys. Go on to the next time. We'll catch you on the next job. Any other scenarios you want to walk through?
No, that pretty much covers your bases because you're protected, and then you find a sub to do it, and you just pass it on to them and collect money off the top. Less headache. Work smarter, not harder.
Is there any risk to any bid I turn into the government for me?
No, not with that system.
There's no risk at all. And this is how my guys are making tens of thousands of dollars an hour while you're out there doing the work. What you just experienced was about 10 or 15 minutes of training from a 3-day workshop that we brought people into Austin, Texas, and we taught it to them live. We did it for over a decade.
And towards the end, and when I say the end, mean the end of live workshops, I was recording them from 6 different camera angles. Not because I knew the pandemic was happening, because I just thought it was fucking cool that guys were coming into Austin and learning from us. Okay? And I wanted video of that. Then all of a sudden the pandemic happens and I can't bring people in the room anymore. Well, I just went back to the videos I already had and put them on the internet. Would you like to see what that looks like?
Sure.
It looked exactly like this. This is day 1. This is just a small clip of day 1 of the workshop.
And then put the BIG over the opportunities. Big problems equal big opportunities. If somebody needs something, and they really need it, they're desperate to get it done, you understand that's the opportunity you're looking for, the need. Okay? You focus on the need. Everything gets focused on the need. What's the need? Do you have a budget? Once I understand the need, I focus on it, I understand it, repeat it back to them. Is there anything else you want to elaborate on? Or anything else I should know? Okay, problems like that usually have a budget associated with it. Can you share that with me? You understand how we go from the need?
Here's a clip of day 2.
That's an innocent sounding question, isn't it? Hey, our costs are more than our contract amount. I don't know how to get that money. Can you ask your attorney? Now, let me tell you something that I know that I didn't finish this sentence for you. Seth calls me up and says, what do I do? And I told him one of 2 things are going to happen. I said, number 1, you're going to get 100% of your contract amount with 0% complete without doing any of the work. I told him that up front. Don't you just love what I can say to people? Okay, 2. Or you're going to get a big fat change order. Don't you love change orders? Some change orders can be big fat change orders. So I said, now if those are
And
the
here's
only
a clip
2
of day
outcomes,
3.
it's either this or this.
Do you remember me saying that the rule was if there's only one bidder, and that bidder is 15% or more above the government estimate, they cannot award the contract? Why does our government, in their infinite wisdom, have that rule? Anybody?
Tax dollars money.
Protects tax dollars, right? Because Sally, what's she trying to do? Get George's job done. He needs it. It's his money. He went and asked for it to fix his fish hatchery. It's sitting on her desk. He needs it done. It's not going to get done until she finds a contractor she can award it to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
When
Okay.
you invest with
So,
me,
Suddenly somebody
what you're
turns
actually investing in is access to those videos. It was 10 hours. In real life, it happened in a 3-day workshop. But what you're getting access to is day 1 of the workshop, which is 10 hours, day 2 of the workshop, which is 11 hours, and day 3 of the workshop, which is 7 hours. And this is a supplemental video that I have created recently to bring things up to modern terms. As an example, in the workshop, the government used a system called PPIRS. In the last couple of years, they got rid of PPIRS and started using CPARS. So in the update video, I tell you, hey, everything I'm about to tell you about PPIRS, put it in your head that that's CPARS now. Okay, so it's just a 10-minute update video. All right?
Okay.
But I have been teaching this for over a decade. You saw the proof page. My shit works. And again, at the beginning of this conversation, I was asking you the only thing you have to decide in this conversation is 2 things. Number 1, do you think I'm full of shit? And number 2, if you don't, am I the guy that you want to go into this market with? Those are the only things you have to figure out. There is no sales pitch. There is no close. You're not going to get a phone call from me tomorrow saying, hey, dude, we talked last night. Right?
Right.
It's just a conversation between 2 guys in the construction business.
Okay. So you guys are offering basically the video course.
Yep.
All right. Does it go over the writing the proposals on how to present them to the government?
It does.
Okay. In detail?
Great detail. You want to
Okay.
see one? I can pull one up for you right now.
No, it's fine. How much does the course cost?
$5,000.
5,000. Okay. And that gives you access to all the videos,
Gives you access to all the videos. Absolutely.
the training.
In fact, it's instant. When you go to my page, this is the checkout page. And down here, if you don't have a SAM registration, you need to get that. So that's a $700 add-on. Whoops, you're not seeing this. I'm sorry. This is a
No, there's a call coming in.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. Sorry. I thought you could see that there was a call coming in.
No. This is a SAM registration. You have to be SAM registered. It's a one-time thing. You just pay $700 and you're done. My wife will take care of the whole thing for you. But if you don't have a SAM registration, you need that. You have to add it on. But then when you hit this button, it takes you to this page.
Okay. Yeah, I had a SAM registration about 8 years ago with my old company.
If that's for your old company, well, because if you just need to update something, my wife will do it for you for $300. But if you need to do a new SAM registration, it's $700.
Yeah, I probably need to do a new one. All right. Well, let me give it some thought. I'm gonna go try and look at some of the videos and see if I can get on them without a capture code and look through them. And then
just understand that there's no high pressure sales here. That I was here last year. I was here yesterday. I'll be here tomorrow. I'll be here next month. This isn't about me trying to get $5,000 out of you. Don't worry about me. I'm going to be eating steak dinner. Don't worry about me. And I don't qualify people. The beginning of this conversation, I didn't say, and you got to have $5,000 in your pocket before I'll even talk to you. I enjoy these conversations, and I enjoy teaching. I think my passion for this shows, and I'll be here if you need me.
Okay. Do they cover the Well, I guess that's just into the SAM designation when you add the veteran qualifier and all that stuff. When you do the
my
SAM
wife
registration,
will help
right?
you get all that done. That's right. All your NAICS codes, all your set aside, everything. That's all part of that. Yes.
Okay. All right. Sean, I appreciate your time. I'm gonna look through some videos and get some more information and keep looking and see what direction.
All right, man. Take
we're
care,
gonna
man.
go. Thank you, Sean. You have a good evening.
You too, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.